You've been lied to. Every single day. Not by your enemies. Not by strangers. But by those in power. By those who lead. And the most bitter pill? You probably admired them for it. That charismatic CEO. That magnetic politician. That popular boss who always somehow got their way. They're not better. Not smarter. Not kinder. They're just playing a different game. And they're not following the rules you were taught. You were trained, like a loyal dog, to believe that being good, being honest, being competent was the way to win. But look around. Really look. Is that who the world rewards? If you don't understand the truth I'm about to reveal, you'll keep losing to the narcissist who talks louder. You'll keep being overlooked for the liar who flatters better. And you'll keep obeying the fool who doesn't even know what they're doing, because they wear the mask of certainty. This isn't a video. This is a reckoning. You want power? You want to lead? Then step into the shadows with me. Let me show you what Machiavelli knew. What no school, no coach, no mentor dares to say aloud. Because the game isn't fair. But it is rigged. And you, my friend, have just found the blueprint. Let's begin with the first bitter truth. Power does not flow to the wise. It flows to the boldly delusional. We admire confidence. But what we actually obey is something far darker. Certainty, even when it's built on sand. Watch any boardroom. Any battlefield. Any political stage. It's not the most qualified person who takes control. It's the one who acts like they were born for it. No hesitation, no doubt, no conscience. Narcissists win. Not because they're strong. But because they're loud, shameless, and immune to guilt. While you're analyzing your next move, they've already taken the throne you didn't even reach for. Let me tell you a story. In 1502, Cesare Borgia, Machiavelli's living prototype of power, was faced with a rebellious province. He sent his enforcer Ramiro to brutally restore order. The man did it. Ruthlessly. Torture, executions, iron-fisted control. And just when the people began to hate Ramiro with burning rage, Cesare had him publicly executed. Cut in half. In the town square. What? Because Cesare understood what you haven't been taught. Power is perception. Control the narrative and you control everything. He used Ramiro's cruelty to fix the province, then scapegoated him to look like the savior. The people cheered him for murdering the very monster he created. That's what real leadership looks like in the raw. No filters. No morality. Just results. And the modern version? It's everywhere. The CEO who lays off thousands but posts about empathy. The politician who starts wars and then cries on camera. You think it's accidental? You think it's hypocrisy? No. It's design. You're being manipulated. And you're letting it happen. Because you still think the truth matters. But here's what Machiavelli whispered centuries ago. People are so simple, so obedient to present needs, that he who deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived. Let that sink in. If you don't learn how this works, you will be ruled by those who do. Here's the second truth you were never meant to know. The world doesn't punish liars. It punishes hesitation. You were told lying is wrong. That honesty is the high road. But in the real world, where power is currency, truth is not a virtue. It's a liability. Ever seen someone lie with so much confidence that even you start doubting the truth? That's not by accident. That's a weapon. Bernie Madoff scammed billions, not because he was clever but because he lied with elite-level calm. Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes promised technology that didn't exist, yet she raised over $700 million before the illusion collapsed. And during the rise, people worshipped her. Magazine covers, TV specials, TED Talks. She looked certain. She acted like she had the answers. And the world paid her for it. If you want to lead, if you want to dominate, you don't need to lie. But you damn well better understand how liars win. Because every time you hesitate to speak, they're already shaping the room. Every time you tell the truth and expect it to win by itself, they're out there bending truth into power. And when you speak from fear while they speak from performance, they get the crown. You get the crumbs. This is why you feel that deep, unspeakable rage sometimes. That gut punch when someone dumber, louder, or faker gets the credit, the followers, the promotion. It's not random. It's systematized. Because most people don't want truth. They want a story that makes them feel safe. And narcissists? They sell comfort better than saints. So what do? You stop playing defense. You stop thinking authenticity alone is enough. You learn to weaponize your silence. You learn how to command, not just communicate. You don't become a liar, but you do stop expecting truth to speak for itself. Because it won't. Not in this world. The elite don't play fair. They play to win. And unless you start doing the same, you'll stay locked out of the rooms that shape your future. This isn't about becoming evil. It's about waking the hell up. You've seen what happens to those who keep their head down. You've watched them age into bitterness. Loyal, honest, forgotten. But you were never meant to be forgotten. The truth we just cracked open, about delusional confidence and weaponized lies, is just the beginning. Because behind every leader who dominates is a darker playbook you were never handed. But I have it. And if you're ready, I'll open the next page. You sure you want to see it? You thought it couldn't get darker. But you're still looking through a keyhole. Now I'm going to rip the door off its hinges. Because what you haven't been told, the truth that would rebuild your understanding of leadership, is this. The world does not reward intelligence. It rewards narrative. That might offend you. Especially if you've spent your whole life being smart. But that's the sickness. That's the cage they put you in. They taught you to optimize your mind, while they optimized influence. You accumulated facts. They sculpted myths. Let me show you how deep that poison runs. In ancient Rome, there was a man named Augustus. He wasn't the strongest. He didn't win the battles. That was Mark Antony. But Augustus understood one thing better than any war general ever could. Perception is power. He painted Antony as a lovesick puppet of the Egyptian queen Cleopatra, an enemy of Rome, a man seduced by foreign gods and Eastern weakness. Whether it was true didn't matter. The Roman people, drunk on fear, believed the story. Antony lost. Augustus rose. And history called him the first emperor. Do you see it yet? The story always wins. Not the smartest, not the best, but the one who frames the moment in a way people can't resist. Now fast forward to today. You're watching influencers dominate industries they know nothing about, just because they speak in absolutes. You're seeing politicians flip entire populations against themselves, with nothing but fear, flags, and a well-rehearsed pause before every fake tear. It's not genius. It's performance. You could have all the right answers. But if someone else sells their lie with more confidence than you whisper your truth, they'll win. Every time. So here's your next forbidden truth. Certainty is more addictive than truth. When people are scared, when they're lost, they don't look for wisdom. They look for a voice that doesn't flinch. And that's where fools rise. Because fools don't hesitate. They don't doubt. They walk into chaos with a grin and a slogan, and the masses follow because the masses are wired for comfort, not clarity. Think about it. Who gets remembered? The steady, careful, nuanced expert who says, well, it's complicated. Or the charismatic idiot who yells, I have the answer. You already know. This is why some of the worst leaders in history had armies of loyal followers, while some of the best thinkers died alone, unpublished, forgotten. Because we don't follow intelligence. We follow conviction. And you? You were trained to question everything except your own hesitation. You were punished in school for being too confident. You were rewarded for obedience, not audacity. Now you're in a world run by people who never obeyed, and you're wondering why you feel behind. You were groomed to serve. They were born to rule. But that doesn't mean you stay a servant. Because here's the fire in the dark. Conviction can be learned. Certainty can be built. Dominance can be engineered. But not if you keep playing by the rules of a game that was designed to chain you. Let's go deeper. There's another Machiavellian truth almost no one dares to say aloud. People want to be ruled. Not just led, ruled. We claim to love freedom. We chant about liberty. But most people are terrified of it. Because freedom means uncertainty, responsibility, consequences. So what do people actually crave? A figure who looks like they know what the hell they're doing. Someone who says, follow me. I'll make it simple. Even if it's a lie. You think tyranny happens by force? No. It happens by invitation. History's monsters didn't steal power. They were handed it, by terrified people desperate to believe in something louder than their own doubt. Hitler, Stalin, Mao. They didn't just seize control. They crafted a mythology so hypnotic, so intoxicating, that people begged to be part of it. And the ones who questioned it? Silenced. Forgotten. Crushed. We like to believe we're smarter now. That it could never happen again. But look around. It is happening. Right now. Only it wears better suits and uses social media. But the formula hasn't changed. So you need to ask yourself something right now, something brutal, something sacred. Are you the one who follows the voice? Or are you the one who becomes it? Because no one's coming to hand you the throne. But if you understand these dark mechanics, you can take it. You can lead not by accident, but by design. You can stop apologizing for your ambition. You can step into the room and make people listen without raising your voice. Not by faking who you are, but by unleashing who you were before the world taught you to kneel. Here's the shift I want burning into your mind right now. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the most experienced. You don't even need to be the most liked. You need to be unshakable. Because the world doesn't reward the best. It rewards the boldest. And if you've made it this far, you've already proven one thing. You were never meant to be among the sheep. But understanding isn't enough. You want transformation? You want to become untouchable? Then we go even deeper. Because in the next phase we're going to burn the last illusions and rebuild your mindset from the bones up. You've seen how the liars rise. You've seen how the fools dominate. But now I'll show you how to beat them at their own game and still keep your soul intact. You're not the prey anymore. You're becoming the strategist. So now you see it. The throne isn't earned by virtue. It's taken by those who dare. But you're still carrying something, aren't you? That last shard of belief. That quiet whisper inside saying, but I'm not like them. I'm not a narcissist. I'm not a manipulator. I don't want to become a monster just to lead. Good. That voice means you're still human. Still awake. But let me tell you a truth that will either break you or make you unstoppable. You don't need to become the darkness. But you do need to understand it. Intimately. Ruthlessly. Like a second language. Because if you don't, you'll always be outplayed by those who do. Power doesn't corrupt. It reveals. So when the spotlight hits you, when people start looking to you for answers, for orders, for certainty, you need to be ready. And here's what that means. You must become a paradox. A weapon with a soul. A storm that knows when to whisper. You lead with empathy, but never flinch. You speak truth, but command like a myth. Because here's the next forbidden law no one warned you about. People follow strength. Not fairness. Not logic. Not kindness. Strength. And strength is not just muscles or money or clout. It's the ability to absorb chaos without breaking. To stay composed when everyone else is panicking. To smile when you're outnumbered. To make hard decisions when others drown in doubt. Want to know what real power looks like? It's not screaming in meetings. It's not bragging online. It's this. Walking into a room where no one wants to take responsibility and saying, I'll own it. Let's move. While others posture, you decide. While others guess, you know. Even if you're not sure inside, you wear certainty like armor. Because the truth is, leadership isn't about being right. It's about being ready. And here's where everything flips. Because the fools and the narcissists, they rise quickly but they fall. They always fall. Their strength is a performance. Your strength will be forged. The people who truly dominate long-term aren't the loudest. They're the ones who understand both light and shadow. Who can step into any room, any war, any crisis, and bring gravity with them. Not noise. Gravity. Let me tell you something Machiavelli understood better than most. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But if you master yourself, if you truly ruthlessly understand the game, you can be both. And that, right there, is the final transformation. You stop being manipulated, because you've mastered manipulation. You stop being intimidated, because you've stared into the pit and didn't blink. You stop apologizing for your power, because now you know, it's earned, not given. So what does life look like when you cross that line? Let me paint it for you. People begin to pause when you speak, not because you're loud but because your words carry weight. You walk into meetings and suddenly the energy shifts, because your presence demands attention not by arrogance but by aura. When crisis hits, others look to you, not out of habit but out of necessity. Because you don't panic. You command. And behind closed doors? You're no longer tormented by the fake leaders, the empty influencers, the shallow politicians. Because you understand them now. You see through them like glass. And you're no longer angry. You're focused. You've turned your wounds into weapons. Your pain into precision. Your awareness into artillery. You're not playing the old game anymore. You're building your own. And the best part? You didn't need to become evil. You just stopped being naive. You kept your soul but forged it in fire. Visual, a sword being pulled from molten steel. The edge glows. You are now the strategist, the kingmaker, the architect of your own ascent. Not because you waited for permission, but because you claimed what was always within you and finally stopped flinching. There's one last truth though, and it's the most dangerous of all. Once you see the game, you can never unsee it. Once you master power, you can't go back to powerlessness. You will lose friends. You will unsettle weak minds. You will be misunderstood, because those who still live in illusions will call your clarity cruel. Let them. You don't exist to be understood by those still asleep. You exist to lead, to reshape the battlefield, to rewrite the narrative, to dominate, with integrity, intelligence, and yes, a touch of ruthless fire. Are you ready to walk as the strategist? To be calm in storms, sharp in silence, and unshakable in darkness? Then stand up. We're not done yet. You've come this far, not because you were entertained, but because something deep inside you was remembering what the world tried to make you forget, that you were never meant to be small, never meant to be silent, never meant to play a role in someone else's play. You were meant to lead, not by inheritance, not by luck, but by force of will. And now you know why the world rewards narcissists, liars, and fools, because they volunteer to take the throne, while the worthy hesitate, the reckless raise their hand. But that ends here, because now you know the rules. Now you've seen the machine, and you are not afraid of it anymore. So here's the final, forbidden truth. This world is not fair. It never was. But that is not your excuse. That is your advantage. Because the moment you stop demanding fairness, you start demanding results. You stop waiting for recognition, and you start building dominion. Think of it. All the suffering you've endured, all the betrayals, the underestimations, the silent nights you thought no one saw, that was your furnace. That was the kingdom sharpening you in secret. Because power does not belong to the loud. It belongs to those who endure the depths and rise with clarity instead of scars. You've seen what false power looks like. You've seen how easily people are seduced by cheap charisma and loud certainty. But now you walk differently. You don't need applause. You don't need validation. Because you've made peace with one thing the world will never teach. Leadership isn't about being liked. It's about being followed, even when the path is brutal. You may walk alone. You may be feared. But the mountain does not ask for company. It simply stands. And the ones who truly understand this, the ones like you, are building something larger than status. They're building legacy. Not the kind written on plaques. The kind carved into the soul of everyone who ever doubted you. Every betrayal, every setback, every moment they looked you in the eye and thought, "He's not ready." Let that burn. Because you don't get even. You get better. You get undeniable. You get so far above the noise, they forget how to pronounce your name without respect. So what now? You walk forward. Not with arrogance, but with sovereignty. Not because you want power, but because you finally understand why it's taken. And what happens when it's left in the hands of cowards? Because if you don't lead, they will. The liars, the fools, the hollowed-out shells that pass for icons. You cannot let that happen. This world is begging for someone to walk in with both vision and fire. For someone who knows the rules, but doesn't kneel to them. For someone who's mastered the art of strategy, without selling their soul. That someone is you. You are no longer reacting. You are rewriting. You are no longer at the mercy of systems built to dilute your ambition. You are now the architect of your reality. They gave you doubt. You built discipline. They gave you silence. You built presence. They gave you chaos. You became order. And when people ask, "How did you do it?" you smile. Because they won't understand. They weren't willing to see what you've seen. But you will know. And you will remember this moment as the line in the sand. The fracture point. The night everything changed. You are no longer the prey. You are the strategist. And from this point forward, you don't rise by chance. You rise by design. Remember this feeling. And never kneel again. They lied to you about power. Now take it back.